Go Nityananda Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Go Nityananda Bol, Hari Bol. So we're continuing with the movement, Krishna consciousness in Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. So when the three of us got inspired to preach in Fiji, after Prabhupada sent a letter requesting a temple be started, we went to New Zealand first and then to Fiji. So well, it was a good thing we stopped in New Zealand because I was still having problems digesting after my first trip to India. And in New Zealand, I met a Chinese acupuncturist who cured, my stomach. Thank Krishna for that. And then it was a very strange trip altogether. In fact, every time I visit New Zealand, to date, I always have a really strange experience there. So this first experience was doing Harinam with the devotees, and we had gone usually to Queen Street. I think that was the name of the main street. But one day we went to another street, side street. I don't even know why. But somebody had called the police for some reason. So when the police came, they arrested B for possession of marijuana. Now, of course, I didn't take marijuana. I didn't have marijuana on me. So it was a setup. Because when he asked me for my bead bag to look at it, he put some marijuana inside it, behind my back, and said, "Look what I found." He said, and I saw the marijuana. I said, "Wow, where did that come from?" And he said, "Get in the car. We have to go right now. You're going to get booked." So I was put in jail for possession. Plus, I didn't even tell them I was an American when I got on the plane from Sydney from Melbourne to Auckland. So I had another misdemeanor or whatever for not, using my regular passport. So I was in jail, and one devotee actually before I left had told me that you're going to cross the ocean and you're going to meet with a big disaster. So I was always wondering what was going to happen, and this was it. So we went to the court after about 3 days in jail, and the judge, asked me to speak, and I told him I don't smoke marijuana, I don't touch the stuff, I don't know how it got in my bead bag. So he said, all right. So he had a big book of different cases, and he said, we had a lady also who swears she didn't have marijuana in her possession, but there was evidence in her purse. So he said, your bead bag is like a purse, so we're going to let you off this first time. So I said, great. So as soon as I got off from being put in jail for possession, I booked my flight to Fiji. And then we all united in Fiji, and Prabhupada came there also a few months later to preach in high schools and different occasions, and inspire the devotees to build a temple. So after that, Prabhupada's servant Vasudeva and his 4 brothers, who were all one family, were collecting money to build the first temple. And I remember that I designed the Vaiṣṇava-saṅga for Prabhupada that they used in the design. They had an Australian architect design the building. So Prabhupada wasn't there for the opening the temple, but he, got everything going, made Vasudeva the GBC sole GBC for Fiji. And Vasudeva loved Prabhupada, as did his other brothers, and the whole family. They were all Gujarati businessmen. And of course, that being businessmen, I think there was a little bit of a problem sometimes with the arrangements that Vasudeva had made sometimes. So I remember Vasudeva's brother's wife, Prabhupada had told her, because he was being moved around a little bit too much. Because he would sleep in one place, eat in one place. Anyway, he told her, look, I love you, you love me. As you love me, I will love you. So, just like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 4:11, as you surrender to me, I reward you accordingly. So Prabhupada was also saying, the way you serve me, the way you love me, I will reciprocate with you. So if you mistreat me or make anything difficult, I'm not going to bless you. So anyway, she spoke to Vasudeva to please make sure Prabhupada is not disturbed in any way whatsoever. So anyway, they built the temple. The temple was open later, and it was a great success. It's a beautiful building. Even the tourist bus stops there for tourists to come and look inside the temple and have darshan of Kaliya Krishna. Prabhupada wanted Kaliya Krishna to be the main deity, because there was a statement in the Ramayana that after Krishna chastised Kaliya and he left the Jamuna River, he came to an island called Ramanik. So all the people in Fiji say, this is Ramanik Dweep. And even they would have signs on their store saying, the Ramanik general store. So when Prabhupada came, I asked him, we would go on morning walks by the beach. I said, Prabhupada, is Kaliya still here in Fiji? And he said, well, is there any poisonous creatures here? I said, no, not at all. The only thing poisonous is the mosquitoes. So then Prabhupada kind of gave an indication that Kaliya was there. And the native Fijians also believe in this big snake. I forget what they call it. And they said, well, the snake is living in this mountain called Nakavendra up near a town called Tavua. So I thought, well, Prabhupada seems to have confirmed it, so let me go see if I can find this Kaliya Nag. So I went up to the town Tavua, and a devotee who was helping me distribute books, he came with me. We climbed to the top of the mountain after about walking 4 hours in the hot sun, but we couldn't find anything at all. So we eventually came back down, and then one of the Brahmins, so-called Brahman Sharma, he said, oh, the Kaliya snake, he was living there, but now he's left because there was a hurricane that closed the door of the cave. So we went back to Lautoka after that, and then it was the morning after I got back to Lautoka, I saw a Fijian with big, huge hair like Sai Baba looking at me from the back of the store, and he said, you're a devotee of Krishna. I said, yeah, I'm trying to be. He said, you can see Kaliya. You were looking for Kaliya. I said, yeah, you're right. He says, if you come with me, I'll show you him. He's living on my island off the coast. I said, really? He says, yes. He says, you meet me tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock, get in my boat, and we'll go, and I'll show you the snake. He's living in a cave underground, but, since you're a devotee, you'll have darshan. He could speak Hindi. The Fijians, some of them speak Hindi. So the next morning, I went to the boat dock, 6 o'clock, the appointed hour, to go have darshan of Kaliya. But I waited, and he didn't show up. So I thought, well, what to do? So I went back to the temple and then kind of gave up looking for Kaliya. So then, anyway, progressing a little bit, I went back to Australia, and I was going to different temples. We'd have Rath Yatra, and I was then going back to Fiji also from Australia, sometimes going to New Zealand. So when Prabhupada left the world, the last time he came to Australia was 76. So we had a Rath Yatra, a big Rath Yatra in Melbourne. And it was so wild. We were throwing the colored dyes like they do on Holi all over the street, which we never should have done because the city council decided that we couldn't have Rath Yatra after that. But Prabhupada, got off the cart and walked in the Rath Yatra, like 2 blocks. And then we went to a hall and had a big lecture and prasadam. So that was the last year Prabhupada came to Australia. I think 75 was the last year he came to Fiji. And then when I was in Fiji in 77, a letter came to Vasudeva, the GBC, you should come to India. Prabhupada is very sick. So Vasudeva left, I had to stay in Fiji, I didn't have the money, and Vasudeva didn't help with the ticket. So Vasudeva delayed, Prabhupada called him and he didn't go right away. And then he got another telegram, and about 5 days later it said, Prabhupada has left the world. And Vasudeva was completely dumbfounded. Oh no. So he went to Vrindavan for the Samadhi festival, which was conducted actually by Sri Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And then he came back to Fiji. So that was the turning point for my career in Krishna consciousness. It was, and everybody, we missed, we felt so much separation from Prabhupada. It's like your soul being taken out of your body. And, we had other leaders come, preach, and make devotees, and we would also assist. So I stayed in Fiji for a while, went to Australia, and, met the new leaders of the society. But I just had an empty heart without Prabhupada. You want to stop? No? So I decided, well, look, I'm going. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, yeah. I'll go to Africa, because one devotee, Sikhi Puchidari, said, let's go to Africa. So I said, all right, great. He said, Brahmananda Swami is starting a temple in Nigeria, and he wants devotees to come. So I was so disturbed about Prabhupada leaving and the new kind of dynamics for my godbrothers to be replace Prabhupada in a way. So I went to Africa in 1981. And there I met Brahmananda, who was starting a temple in Lagos. And I liked him. I saw some videos of him preaching. We became very good friends. He put me in charge of life membership. And, it was a strange place in West Africa. There was no water in the temple. And there was mosquitoes at night that were full of malaria. So, but the Nigerians, they love kirtan. They love kirtan. And they love the philosophy. They were very intelligent. So many people joined. And the Indians would come on Sunday. We had a big festival on Sunday with a lot of Indians bringing prasadam. So it was a big success. And, we also preached in Nigeria, the local countries next door to Nigeria, particularly Ghana. Between Ghana and Nigeria, I was traveling, and sometimes Sierra Leone and Cote d'Ivoire. So it was very dynamic, you know. It was like a new ground for preaching. So I came back to life, and I got over the depression of Prabhupada's departure. And Brahmananda ordered books, so we were doing a lot of book distribution, and the Nigerians, they loved reading the books. You know, they kind of identified with the whole principle of worshiping a form of God, and also identified with demigods and reincarnation. They kind of wish we had come earlier. So it grew very fast. We had a few problems in the beginning, which eventually we overcame, but we opened up a lot of temples in Nigeria and also in Ghana, and the preaching was just wonderful. You know, they had radio and TV coverage. You could go on TV. Well, I remember sometimes they'd ask you, "You want to speak for an hour?" And I said, "Well, sure." So we could speak for hours on the television. So I love Nigeria, and I stayed there for like 10 years. Nigeria, and also a little bit in Zambia, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe and Zambia were a little different. The people were not quite as receptive. So I always thought Nigeria and Ghana were the best places in Africa to preach. And we have many devotees, you know, even book publishers like Ishwar became a publisher in Vrindavan of, you know, Vaishnava literature. Many dynamic Nigerian devotees, Ghanaian devotees. And eventually, you know, I left Africa and I came back to America. And I joined the temple in San Diego. And there I met a German devotee. We became very good friends. So we decided to start prasadam distribution together. So we started a company called Govinda's Bliss Bars. And we made, you know, healthy, organic snacks in the temple. And we started selling it to the major, you know, health food stores. And it caught on very quickly. And we started getting too many orders. So we had to buy some equipment. And even the temple, we had people working in the kitchen for the bliss bars, and we're renting the temple property. So it got more bigger, and we had to leave and find a warehouse. So we moved to a warehouse, and all the devotees would leave the temple after the morning program and come and cook and make the prasadam. We'd offer it in the Didi Radhagiri Hari. We would bring the prasadam the bhoga back to the temple and offer it. So it was all prasadam. And the biggest, you know, health food company in America called Whole Foods was ordering big orders. So it was, you know, very, very engaging, you know. And, you know, that was also when Gaura Govinda Swami, we had met Gaura Govinda Swami earlier in India. We went to India in 76, and then 84. But in early 1990s, I had met Gaura Govinda Swami. And he was a really dynamic preacher. So my business partner, when we were in San Diego making the prasadam, he took initiation. And I took like Siksha, you know. I was so in love with him. I'd listen to his lectures every day. He's really dynamic. So he became my first Siksha guru. And he came to our factory even. He would come to San Diego and preach. And many devotees were, you know, overwhelmed by his dynamic presentation of Krishna consciousness. But there was a conflict of interest because he was saying that the jiva cannot fall from Vaikuntha. But the GBC had, you know, the opinion that we did fall. There was a big problem with the jiva tattva issue and the preaching of Gaura Govinda Swami, which we'll have to speak about in another